Hey there. Tonight's journey takes us somewhere uncomfortable, unfiltered, and probably a little itchy because we're peeling back the myths of ancient times to see just how rough life really was. No polished temples, no golden gods, just cracked mud brick walls, sunburns, and the kind of daily struggle that makes your modern problems look like a luxury. So before you settle in, dim your lights, maybe let a fan hum in the background, and take a deep breath. You're about to be transported to a world of heat, dust, and divine bureaucracy. But first, if you enjoy this kind of slow storytelling and historical immersion, take a moment to like the video and subscribe. And let me know in the comments, where are you watching from? And what time is it for you right now? It's always fascinating to see who joins this journey across time. Now close your eyes or don't and imagine this. It's just before dawn. You've just woken up in the shadow of the Nile, sometime around 1350 BCE, in one of the many villages that dot the riverbanks. The sky is still a dark violet, but the air is already dry and warm. You're not in a bed. There is no bed. Just a coarse mat of woven reeds fraying at the corners, laid out on a packed dirt floor. You're inside a single-room house. Its walls made of sun-dried mud brick that occasionally crumble when the wind gets wild. The roof is thatched and low, and the entire place smells faintly of smoke, sweat, and something sour you can't quite place. You sit up and scratch your arm. Your skin feels like it's been sanded overnight. Welcome to ancient Egypt. If you're poor, which you probably are, you don't own much. A single linen tunic that's been mended too many times, a wooden comb, maybe a rough pottery bowl. Your feet are bare. You don't even think of sandals unless it's festival season, and even then, good luck finding a pair that fits. You stretch, feeling every joint creak like dried wood. You're not old, you're barely 20. But in this world, you're already halfway through your life expectancy. Outside, a rooster crows not yours, probably your neighbor's, and that's your cue to begin the day. If your family farms, you'll head to the fields. If you're a servant, you'll report to your master's home. If you're a woman, your job is everything. Grinding grain, fetching water, raising children, preparing meals, managing cloth, and praying the bread bakes evenly in the mud oven that's been cracked since your aunt sat on it last season. You grab your only tunic, still stiff from yesterday's sweat, and slip it on. It's made of linen if you're luckier, of something even rougher if you're not. There are no buttons, no dyes, no flair. Just a simple off-white wrap that once resembled cleanliness, but now just blends into the background of your life. You step outside, squinting as the light starts to creep over the eastern horizon. The sky turns from violet to pink, then to gold, and with it, the heat arrives. There are no clouds. There is no breeze. Just the sun and you, face to face, for the next 12 hours. Your job today is the same as yesterday: survive. The Nile has recently flooded, leaving thick black silt across the farmland. It's your job to dig, plant, or harvest depending on the time of year, and to keep your head down while doing it. Pharaoh's taxes don't wait. Even though you barely eat enough to function, the grain you grow must be counted and weighed by officials who arrive wearing cleaner robes and self-importance. You bow. You don't speak unless spoken to. You offer them beer, bread, or dates if you have any left over. They rarely say thank you. The tools you use are simple: a wooden hoe, a basket made of reeds, your hands. If something breaks, you fix it or go without. The land is fertile, yes, but it doesn't forgive laziness or missteps. If the Nile floods too much, you lose your crop. If it doesn't flood enough, the soil dries out and cracks like old skin. Either way, you're at the mercy of something far beyond your control. And every year is a gamble between hunger and just enough. You break for lunch, if you can call it that. A handful of dates, maybe a slice of bread. If your family is doing well, there's some lentil stew stored in a jar wrapped in cloth to keep the flies out. You eat quickly, sitting on a rock that's been smoothened by years of other tired workers doing the same. There's no cold drink, no sweet dessert, no time to rest. Just the sun watching. Always watching. By mid-afternoon, your shoulders are roasted. The linen tunic does nothing to protect you from the sun's stare, and there's no such thing as sunscreen or shade unless you're richer, a temple cat. You squint through sweat, dirt, and exhaustion, wondering if the day will ever end. Around you, the sounds of village life echo, the creaking of ox carts, the yelling of children, the bray of a donkey that refuses to move. A woman nearby scolds her son for dropping their water jar. Another man mutters prayers to Sobek, hoping the crocodiles will stay away from his fishing nets today. Life is loud and dusty and relentlessly ordinary. Eventually, the sun begins to dip, casting long golden rays across the fields. Your back aches like you've carried a pyramid. You haven't, but someone in your family probably did. You shuffle home, feet dragging through the dirt paths carved between clusters of houses. There's no street map, just memory and instinct. The homes all look the same mud brick cubes with flat roofs and a handful of clay pots scattered outside. Smoke begins to rise as fires are lit for the evening meal. You arrive and collapse onto the threshold. Inside, your mother or sister or wife has been busy since sunrise. The grinding stone hums as she crushes barley into flour, her arms moving in a rhythm she learned before she could walk. A pot simmers with something vaguely edible. The scent of boiling onions and herbs fills the air. It's not delicious exactly, but it's warm, and it's food. That's enough. Dinner is eaten on the floor. No plates. Just shared bowls, torn pieces of flatbread used to scoop up whatever mash is available. You chew slowly, the grit of sand sneaking into every bite. There is no salt, no spice, only what the gods have allowed to grow this season. Conversation is sparse. There's nothing new to say. Everyone's tired. Someone farts. Someone else laughs. Then, it's quiet again. After dinner, the house dims. There's no electricity, only oil lamps made from clay, filled with flickering flames that cast long shadows on the walls. If you have a second room, and that's a big if, it's likely reserved for storage or animals, everyone sleeps in the same space. Privacy isn't a concept. You change clothes behind a woven sheet maybe, but most people don't bother. You've all seen each other's butts 1,000 times by now. The floor is hard. The air is thick. Mosquitoes buzz. You swat at them absent-mindedly, already too tired to care. As you lie back on your mat, staring at the cracked ceiling and the legs of a spider in the corner, you think about the star show the priests say they're boats of the gods crossing the sky. You wonder if those gods ever look down and feel anything, or if they're just out there, sailing endlessly, like rich tourists floating past the lives of the poor. You close your eyes, you sleep, and then, too soon, you wake again. Morning again. You didn't dream not that you can remember. Maybe it's because dreams require deep sleep. And deep sleep is hard to come by when the air is warm, the bugs are bold, and your joints click like the gears of a wooden trap. You sit up. Your neck aches from the angle your head rested in all night. You stretch and feel something pop. It's unclear whether that was a joint or a sign from Ra. Either way, the day begins exactly as the last one ended, with a tired groan and a resigned breath. This morning, your job isn't in the fields. You've been called to help move stone blocks to the site of a new tomb. Not a royal one, those are handled by teams of specialists. But an official's tomb still means big stones, long walks, and yelling supervisors. You eat quickly, a crust of bread, some sour beer. It's more of a sludge than a drink, but it gives you calories and keeps the edge off your thirst. Your gut doesn't feel great, but it never does. Nobody talks about digestion here, unless someone's dying from it. You head out on foot, following the curve of the river. The Nile is low today, a thin ribbon of brown water winding through reeds and stone. A few crocodiles sun themselves on the bank. You pretend not to see them? That's always safest. As you walk, the landscape shifts from dusty villages to open desert. The tomb site is set into the side of a rocky hill, and by the time you arrive, the sun is already climbing high. Your job is simple. You haul ropes, you fetch tools, you carry baskets of limestone rubble and dump them farther down the slope. You get yelled at for walking too slow, then again for walking too fast and kicking up dust. The supervisor, a man with a sharp nose and a voice like a chisel, seems to exist solely to remind you that you're replaceable. You know this. Everyone does. There's always someone hungrier waiting for your job. You work until the midday heat feels like a second skin, baking your bones and boiling your thoughts. You don't stop. There's no union, no break schedule. Just the hope that if you collapse, someone will drag you into the shade before the vultures notice. When you finally get a short rest, you sit in silence with the others. No one has energy to talk. The older men wheeze, the younger ones try to sleep, shielding their eyes from the sun with scraps of cloth. A few chew on dried figs. Someone shares water from a goat skin flask. It tastes like leather and river mud, but it's wet. That's all that matters. You think about your family, about whether the roof leaked again, about the neighbor who owes your father a bundle of reeds, about whether there'll be enough flour left this week. You don't think about the future. The future is dangerous. The future is the pharaoh's problem. Eventually, the foreman calls for work to resume, and you're back on your feet before your knees agree. The blocks you help drag feel like pieces of the sun itself, hot, rough, and unwilling. You wrap your hands in strips of cloth to prevent blisters, but it's a losing battle. Your palms already sting, your back screams. You keep your head down. Somewhere up the slope, a scribe is jotting down who's working and who isn't. That list will decide who gets paid. And by paid, we mean a sack of barley and maybe some oil. Not coins, not comfort. The worksite is a controlled chaos of shouting, grunting, and rhythmic pulling. Every movement is timed. Every mistake is seen. You're not building for glory, you're building for someone else's afterlife. The man whose tomb this is will never lift a finger here, but his name will be carved into stone. Yours won't. You'll vanish into the dust long before the tomb is sealed. Finally, the sun starts to dip. Not that it gets cool, just slightly less brutal. You're dismissed, and you begin the long trudge home, feet dragging, shoulders slumped. The walk back is quiet. Everyone is too tired to talk. The desert wind picks up, dry and stinging. You pull your tunic tighter, more out of instinct than effect. At some point, you pass a shrine to Anubis. You bow your head without stopping. Better to be polite to death. He's always watching. Back at your village, the air is thick with evening smells. Fire smoke, roasted onions, sweat, dust, and something faintly sweet, maybe dates, maybe rotting fruit, hard to tell anymore. You wash your hands in a shallow bowl of water that's been reused all day. You eat what's offered. Lentils, bread, maybe a bit of dried fish if someone was lucky. It's warm, it's filling. It's not enough, but it will do. After dinner, someone tells a story, probably about Set and Horus, or maybe about the time a neighbor swore he saw a crocodile walk upright like a man. You half listen, you half believe. Your eyes drift to the door, to the stars, to nothing in particular. Then it's time to sleep again. The same mat, the same aches, the same buzzing mosquitoes. You wonder, just for a moment, what it would be like to rest on something soft, to have your own space, to sleep without waking up sore. You close your eyes. The night doesn't care. Morning again. This time you wake to the sound of shouting out. Someone's goat wandered into the neighbor's grain store, and chaos has ensued. You rub your eyes, feeling the crust of dust at the corners, and push yourself upright. Everything cracks. Your spine, your knees, your ankles. You're only 28, but you feel ancient. You reach for a clay cup of yesterday's beer water mix, stale and sour, and take a sip just to wet your throat. Then it's out the door again. Today, you've been called to the temple not as a priest or scribe, of course. That's for the elite. You're just one of the workers who help haul offerings, sweep courtyards, and fetch water for those who wear white linen and walk like gods. The temple is vast, its entrance flanked by towering statues of deities with unblinking stone eyes. You bow your head as you enter, even if those gods have never once intervened in your problems. The temple smells like incense and dust. Your first job is to clean the outer hall with a bundle of palm fronds tied into a makeshift broom. You sweep in silence while priests chant nearby, their voices echoing off the sandstone. The songs are beautiful, even if you don't understand them. Only a select few know how to read or write. To you, the hieroglyphs carved into the walls are just pictures, birds, snakes, eyes, reeds, a language for someone else. Later, you help carry jars of oil and baskets of bread into the offering chamber. You're not allowed past the inner sanctum. That space is for priests alone and for the god's statue, which is bathed, clothed, and fed daily as if it were alive. You think about how much food goes to the gods and how little makes it back to your house. You don't say it aloud. You never say it aloud. By midday, the heat inside the stone temple becomes unbearable. The air is still heavy with scent. You find a moment's shade behind a pillar, where another worker has already etched their name into the wall with a broken chisel. You trace it with your finger. The script means nothing to you, but you know it means someone wanted to be remembered. That's all anyone really wants. When your duties end, you're allowed to take a small loaf of temple bread as payment. It's dense, chewy, and faintly sweet. You tuck it under your arm and begin the walk home. Along the way, you pass a funeral procession, mourners wailing, dust rising, a wrapped body carried on a wooden sled toward the west. Always west. The land of the dead lies beyond the horizon where the sun disappears each night. You pause, bow your head, and keep walking. You wonder if the man on that sled ever had more than you. You wonder if it made any difference. That night, you can't sleep. Not because of noise, though. The dogs are barking and someone nearby is coughing so hard it rattles the walls, but because your mind won't stop spinning. You lie there, staring at the flickering oil lamp, listening to your own heartbeat echo in the silence between sounds. You think about how everything feels the same. The work, the food, the days, the nights. Life here isn't about ambition. It's about endurance. You think about the nobles, the scribes, the priests, the people who move through life like the Nile flows, slow and unbothered. They sit in the shade while others like you break their backs to lift stones, grind flour, fetch water, and sweep dust that never really disappears. You've never spoken to someone who's met the pharaoh. You've never seen the royal palace. It might as well be a myth. Still, you believe. Not because faith comforts you, but because it's dangerous not to. The gods are in everything: the rising sun, the flooding Nile, the beating of your heart, the rot in your neighbor's teeth. If something good happens, it's a blessing. If something bad happens, it's a punishment. Either way, the gods win. You close your eyes again, willing your body to relax. Tomorrow, you'll go back to the fields, or the tombs, or the quarry, if they need more hands. Your hands, always your hands. The tools of your survival, scarred and strong and cracked. You wonder how many more years they'll keep working before they betray you. But then, a small moment of peace. The breeze shifts. It carries the scent of river water, clean and cool and familiar. You hear someone humming gently in the next room, maybe a lullaby from their own childhood. The moonlight sneaks through the cracks in the wall, casting soft silver across the floor. And just like that, the exhaustion wins. You drift off not into dreams, but into stillness. And that's enough. Morning once more. The rooster crows late, but you're already awake. Not that you slept deeply, nobody does in these huts, where every breath feels shared and every sound echoes like it's coming from inside your skull. You stretch your arms and feel the ache immediately, like your muscles are still stuck in yesterday. There's no time to linger. The sun isn't up yet, but work has already begun. Today, you're going to the quarry. The walk there is long and quiet. The stars are still faintly visible, blinking above the eastern horizon, as if reluctant to leave. The Nile glows silver in the moonlight, and for a moment, you feel like you're walking through a dream. But dreams don't have dust in your eyes and grit between your teeth. Dreams don't weigh 30 pounds and need to be hauled up steep stone ramps in silence. The quarry is a scar in the deserted, jagged wound of stone and sweat. You join the line of men, each one carrying tools or dragging sleds. There's no talking. The foreman carries a stick, and silence is the rule. Your job is to hammer out blocks from the cliff face. Not the clean cuts that decorators use, but the rough shapes that'll be smoothed later. The sun rises slow but sure, and by the time it's fully in the sky, the heat is unbearable. Your shirt clings to you. The dust clings harder. Time melts. You measure the day not in hours, but in buckets of sweat and moments of rest. Your arms move on their own nowswing. Crack, lift, swing. Sometimes a block breaks wrong. When that happens, no one says anything. You just start over. Mistakes are too common to matter. Around noon, someone collapses. The work doesn't stop. When the sun is low enough to cast long shadows, the foreman calls it. You stagger back home, muscles jelly, mouth dry, every breath like a whisper from a furnace. A woman hands you a gourd of water near the edge of the village. You don't know her. She doesn't say anything. You nod. It's enough. At home, your youngest sibling is crying. Your mother is kneading dough with tired hands, and the neighbor is arguing again about someone stealing their reeds. Life is noisy and cracked and raw, and somehow still tender. You eat your dinner in silent onions, bread and beans today, and then step outside. The stars are fully awake now, scattered across the sky like sand flung by a giant hand. You sit for a moment and just look up. The sky feels big enough to swallow you. Maybe it already has. The next few days blur together. In ancient Egypt, time isn't marked by calendars on the wall or watches on your wrist. It's marked by the rise and fall of the Nile, the appearance of certain stars, the changing length of shadows. Seasons mean everything here, not because of festivals or holidays, but because your very survival depends on them. You're in the season of Shati inundation. The Nile has flooded, just like it does every year, swelling past its banks, drowning the fields in dark, rich silt. This is a time of rest for farmers. With the fields underwater, there's little to do but wait. And for a peasant like you, waiting doesn't mean idleness, it means being sent to work on state projects. You've been chosen for the canal crew. By dawn, you're waist deep in muddy water, guiding stones into place as part of a new irrigation channel. You work with a dozen others, each one covered in muck, faces streaked with sweat and grit. The mud sucks at your feet like it wants to keep you, pull you under and make you part of the land. Every stone is heavy. Every command from the overseer is sharp and urgent. The sun beats down like a punishment. But the worst part isn't the labor, it's the stillness of the air. No breeze, just heat and stink and flies. One man mutters a prayer to Hapi, god of the Nile, asking for balance. You don't interrupt. You don't even look up. Everyone has their own deal with the gods. You just keep placing stones, hauling buckets, wiping your face with the same cloth you used yesterday and the day before. You don't need a priest to tell you the truth. The river gives and the river takes. At midday, there's a break. You squat by the water with the others, eating flatbread that's mostly crust and chewing dried dates so hard they stick to your teeth. The man beside you starts humming a song in old river chant, slow and low. It doesn't matter if you know the words. The rhythm is enough. It helps. By the time you're dismissed, your arms are jelly, your legs coated in dried mud that cracks when you move. You limp home through the reeds, past children throwing stones into the flooded fields, past old women kneeling by the banks, washing clothes with rough hands. Smoke curls into the sky from a cooking fire, and the scent of lentils and onions calls you home. That night, you sit by your doorway watching fireflies blink over the river, listening to frogs sing their low, lazy songs. It's peaceful in a way that almost hurts. You want to remember this moment, but you know you won't. Another morning. This one starts with a summons. A messenger from the estate has arrived barefoot, breathless, with a papyrus scroll clutched in one hand. You're being pulled from canal duty. They need laborers for a tomb construction site. Not a burial, but the tomb itself. A grand one. Meant for a nobleman whose name you don't recognize, but whose money apparently flows like the Nile itself. So you go. It's not a request. The site is carved into the limestone cliffs west of the river, far from the villages. The desert air here feels different, drier, thinner, almost sacred. You're handed a pick and shown where to stand. The job? Clearing rubble from the inner corridor. Not glamorous, not skilled, just hauling stones from deep inside the tomb to the pile outside, over and over, for weeks. Inside, the air is thick with dust and the smell of sweat-soaked linen. Torches flicker along the wall, their light dancing across unfinished carvings. Figures of gods, lines of hieroglyphs, painted eyes that watch you while you work. The artists don't speak to you. They're higher class, you're just part of the machine. As you move deeper into the tomb one afternoon, you pause to glance at a half-painted mural. It shows the nobleman sailing across the sky in a boat, surrounded by stars and guarded by jackal-headed gods. His arms are outstretched, serene and untouched by time. You wonder, will anyone ever paint you on a wall? Will your name be carved in stone? Or will you just vanish, like so many others? You don't linger, there's work to do. Outside, you dump another load of rubble and wipe your brow. The sun is relentless, the kind that makes your skin crack. One of the older workers leans beside you, coughing hard. He says nothing, but you notice his hands trembling. You both sit for a moment, just breathing, just existing. Sometimes that's enough. Back at home that evening, your brother has a fever. Your mother crushes herbs in a bowl, chanting under her breath, hoping the gods are listening. You offer him a piece of your bread, even though it means you'll go to bed a little hungrier. He smiles weakly. You smile back. Then you step outside. The stars are out again, the desert sky clear and endless. You don't know the constellations, not really, but you make up stories about them anyway. Maybe that cluster is a falcon. Maybe that one's a chariot. Maybe those faint stars near the horizon are ancestors, watching. You whisper something to them. Nothing fancy. Just, I'm still here. And somehow, that's enough to close your eyes with a little peace. The fever gets worse. By the next day, your brother is too weak to stand. His skin is hot to the touch, his eyes glassy. Your mother tries everything: cool cloths, amulets, a visit to the local healer who chants and waves incense over his body. But nothing works. You go to your day's labor in silence, heart heavy and throat dry. Every minute you're gone, you wonder if he'll still be breathing when you return. That evening, you run. Past the huts, past the goats and the fish drying on racks, past the dock where two boys are laughing without a care. You run all the way to the temple. The priests aren't cruel, just distant. You beg for help. They offer a blessing and a small clay charm bearing the symbol of Sekhmet, the lioness goddess of healing. You thank them, clutching the charm like it weighs 1,000 stones, and run all the way back. That night, you sit by your brother's side. He's asleep now, shallow breaths whistling through cracked lips. You dip a rag in water and wipe his forehead. You don't speak. Words feel small here. You wake before sunrise. He's still breathing. A little stronger, maybe. You don't dare hope too much. The day's work is the same, and yet you feel it differently. Every noise in the quarry feels sharper. Every grunt and hammer blow more real. Life is fragile here, but it also clings stubbornly, like vines on stone. You look at the other workersmen with missing teeth, women with scarred hands, children carrying baskets of sand, and realize they've all had a moment like this. A moment of almost... That night, your brother eats a little. You smile. And it's the first real smile you've had in days. The next morning, you offer thanks at the tiny household shrine. 3 carved wooden gods, their paint faded, their faces worn smooth from years of silent prayers. You don't know if they listened, but maybe they did. Time pass. He recovers, and life, once again, returns to the rhythm of work, dust, sweat, and starlight. But now, there's a quiet strength in you, a memory of fear and of hope. A reminder that even in the hardest lives, love persists. The harvest season begins. The Nile has receded, leaving behind fields blanketed in rich, dark silt. This is what your entire year has built toward. Everyone, men, women, childrenus in the fields now, bending low with sickles, gathering wheat and barley, under a hot sun. There's no time for rest, no room for error. If this season fails, the rest of the year will be hunger. You work from sunrise to sunset, moving in lines with the others, cutting stalks and bundling them, tying them with twine that leaves blisters on your fingers. Your hands are already calloused, but this is different. This is the kind of work that sinks into your bones. The rhythm is everything. Snip, gather, tie, move. Snip, gather, tie, move. You don't think, you just do. The overseers walk among you, counting bundles, shouting orders, measuring everything. The taxes will come soon. You'll give a portion to the temple, a portion to the noble estate, and whatever remains and he will feed your family. One afternoon, while working near the edge of the field, you find a scarab beetle crawling across a stalk of wheat. You pause. Scarabs are sacred, symbols of the sun god Ra's daily rebirth. A good omen, maybe. You don't touch it. You just watch as it climbs, slow and steady, up the golden stem. By the end of the week, the threshing begins. The bundles are taken to a flat area where oxen trample them, breaking the grain from the chaff. You stand nearby with a wooden fork, tossing the straw into the air to let the wind blow away the light husks. Dust fills your lungs. Your skin itches. But when you see the pile of clean grain grow larger, you feel something rare. Satisfaction. You've done your part. That night, there's music. Drums, flutes, clapping hands. Not an official festival, just a celebration among neighbors. Someone has brewed beer. Someone else brought dried figs. Children dance. The old man with no teeth sings a song that doesn't rhyme, but everyone laughs anyway. You sit by the fire, watching sparks float into the sky. For once, no one is talking about taxes or floods or aches. Just stories and smiles and the shared relief that this year the harvest came. And for tonight, that's enough. The cooler winds begin to return, brushing across the fields and down from the desert. It's the season of perils no emergence. The land dries, the grain is stored, and attention shifts from survival to structure. Repairs are made to homes. Tools are sharpened. Boats are patched with fresh resin. Even the temple walls are swept of dust and repainted where the sun has faded the gods' faces. You're assigned to carry stone again. This time, it's for the construction of a granary. The noble steward has ordered a new one to store the surplus, and so the men of the village are summoned to build it. You haul limestone blocks down a ramp, stack mud bricks, and mix straw with clay under the careful eye of a foreman whose patience is thinner than the thread in your shirt. He shouts at the younger boys for dropping a trowel. You say nothing. Everyone knows tempers rise like the river, quick, violent, then gone. The work is slow. The bricks must dry in the sun, then be lifted into place, one by one. As the wall climbs higher, so do you, scrambling up with baskets of mortar. It's dangerous. A misstep, and you could fall. No safety nets, no ropes. Just balance and muscle and habit. At one point, your foot slips, but someone grabs your tunic just in time. You look back and it's one of the boys, grinning through cracked lips. You nod. No words exchanged, just gratitude in the dust. At night, your arms ache so much you can barely raise them to eat. But the stars above feel closer now. You lie on your back, staring up, imagining yourself drifting among them. Is there a god for tired backs? If there is, you'd make an offering. A small one, maybe a bit of salt or oil if only you had some to spare. One morning, a merchant arrives from Thebes, bringing cloth, fishhooks, and stories. He says there's a temple festival conundrums, torches, boats with sails like wings. You won't be attending. It's too far. But for a few moments, just hearing about it, you feel like you're part of something larger. A vast network of voices, of villages, of people like you. At the edge of the build site, you carve a tiny mark into one of the bricks, just a line and a curve. Nothing grand. It's not your name, it's not even legible, but it's yours, a whisper of presence. Proof that you were here. The granary is finished. It stands tall beside the field, its walls thick. its entrance shaded by a woven mat that flutters in the breeze. It's not beautiful, not really, but it's solid. It will hold the grain through the cold season, protect it from the rats and the rain, and if all goes well, feed dozens of families when the land sleeps. You look at the structure with quiet pride. You helped build that. Not just for pay, not for glory, but because it needed doing. That's the rhythm of your life, quiet necessity. Soon after, you're summoned to the riverbank for another duty hauling a fishing boat upriver. The noble's household is hosting guests, and they require fresh fish. So you and 5 others push the wooden craft against the current, dragging it through reeds and shallow bends. The water is cold and murky, hiding stones that bruise your ankles and leeches that cling to your calves. But you push forward, breath slow and steady, like the tug of the current pulling at your chest. The boat creaks beneath your hands. A heron watches from a tree stump, unmoving, as if carved from the same stone as the statues of Horus. You envy its stillness. Eventually, you reach a calm bend in the river and cast the nets. You wait. Hours pass. Bentugs, ripples, splashes. The nets are pulled in, heavy with silver bodies that wriggle and slap against the boat floor. Tilapia, catfish, eels. The catch is good. The boat is heavy on the return. As the sun sets behind the palm trees, you carry baskets of fish back to the estate. You're given a small sack of grain for your trouble. The steward doesn't say thank you. He doesn't have to. In Egypt, labor is its own language. That night, your sister makes stew with dried lentils and a sliver of salted fish. It's enough. You sit in the doorway, the warm bowl in your lap, the sounds of insects chirping in the background. The stars are out again. Same sky, same gods. You feel tired, but not empty. The cold season creeps in slowly. Mornings are colder now, the breath from your mouth turning to fog in the air. The ground, once soft and muddy, hardens beneath your feet. Your tunic feels thinner. The wool blanket you share with your brother is no longer enough to keep the chill out, so you sleep curled tight, limbs tucked in like a bundled reed. Fewer hours are spent in the fields now. There's no planting, no harvestingly maintenance. You patch the fence around the goat pen, mend a broken door latch, help repair a collapsed section of a neighbor's roof. Everyone works, even when there's little to do. Not working feels dangerous, like tempting the gods to remind you how much worse things could be. At the temple, preparations for the festival of Osiris begin. Priests carry bundles of papyrus and statues wrapped in linen. They chant at sunrise, their voices echoing down the village's narrow path. You stand at a distance, watching the painted god pass by green-skinned, wrapped like a mummy, crowned with white feathers. The story of Osiris is one you've known since you were old enough to listen. Death, dismemberment, rebirth. A cycle. Just like the Nile. Just like you. Your neighbor invites you to join in the offering. You're not sure you believe the gods listen, but you kneel anyway. You offer a pinch of barley and whisper a small request, not even a prayer, just a thought, for safety, for peace, for the strength to keep going. At home, your father sits by the fire, rubbing his knees. They ache more in the cold. You boil water for him, place heated stones under the mat where he sleeps. He nods in thanks, eyes closed. No words needed. On the coldest night yet, the wind howls through the cracks in your wall. You lie awake, staring at the rafters, listening to your brother breathe. You think about time, how slow the days feel, but how quickly the years seem to pass. You think about your mother's hands, calloused and strong, still working, always working. You wonder if she feels the same chill that you do, or if she's simply used to it. Eventually, you drift to sleep, and in your dream, the river rises again, not in flood, not in fury, but in light. Gentle, golden, warm, the kind of warmth you haven't felt in weeks. You wake before sunrise, blanket damp from your breath. But for a moment, you swear you can still feel that light. The days grow longer again. The cold air gives way to a softer breeze, and the scent of damp earth returns. The season of Shemaharvesti is still weeks away, but there's a shift in the wind, a quiet promise that the cycle is turning once more. This morning, you're called to the noble's estate. Not for labor this time, but for procession. The noble's daughter is marrying a scribe from another village, and the wedding is to be celebrated with music, food, and ritual. You don't know the bride or groom, but your presence is expected. Everyone's is. In Egypt, a celebration is never private, it belongs to the community. You bathe in the river, rubbing sand into your skin to scrub away the dust. It doesn't leave you clean, not truly, but it's enough. You wrap your best linen around your waist, thread a bit of colored cord through your hair. Your mother traces a line of kohl around your eyes, not for beauty, but for protection. From glare, from spirits, from misfortune. The estate is crowded with neighbors and guests. Musicians pluck harps and beat frame drums. Women dance in the courtyard, their feet stirring up clouds of scented powder. The noble sits beneath a canopy, drinking wine from a carved cup, watching the festivities with lazy approval. You stay near the back where the servants gather, but even here, laughter flows like water. You're handed a cup of beer, thick, warm, mildly sour. You drink anyway. The bread is soft and sweet, flavored with dates. For a moment, just one moment, you forget the blisters on your hands, the cracked soles of your feet. You are simply a part of the world, woven into the fabric of this sunlit day. As the sun dips low, the bride and groom appear wrapped in white, faces solemn but bright. They walk together to the shrine, offer incense, and speak words older than the pyramids. Everyone claps. The air is filled with flower petals and dust. That night, you return home with a full belly and aching feet. Your little sister is asleep on the mat, curled against your father. The oil lamp flickers low. You lie down and stare at the ceiling, thinking about the ceremony, about music, about how people smile even when their lives are hard. You don't know if the gods were watching, but you were. And for now, that's enough. The following morning begins with the scent of smoke. Not fire, at least, not danger, but the controlled burn of incense and cooking fires. The village priest is preparing for the monthly offering to the household gods. You hear the rhythm of his chant even before the sun rises fully, soft and steady like the pulse of the earth itself. It's comforting in a strange way, a reminder that even if your own life feels uncertain, the gods still wake, the rituals still happen, and time continues to loop in its sacred, endless path. Your mother sends you to fetch water before the sun climbs too high. The pot is heavy, even when empty, and the path to the river is long, but it's quiet this time of day. Only a few others walk the same trail: an old woman with a basket, two boys carrying nets, a girl with a clay jug balanced perfectly on her head. When you reach the river, the world feels wide. Birds skim the water's surface. Crocodiles sun themselves lazily on distant banks. You crouch low, filling your pot slowly, watching the way the water swirls. It's easy to get lost in it. The Nile is more than just a river here. It's a thread connecting every breath, every harvest, every hope. You wonder how far it stretches. You've heard it flows to lands where people speak strange languages and wear gold on their faces. But for you, it's always been this muddy, steady, sacred. As you walk home with the full pot balanced on your shoulder, you pass the small shrine at the village edge. It's dedicated to Tauret, the goddess of childbirth, shaped like a hippo with lion claws. Someone's left a wreath of papyrus and a bit of honey near her feet. You pause for a moment, not to pray exactly, but to notice, to be present. Sometimes, that's all the offering you have. When you reach home, your mother nods in approval. She ladles porridge into a bowl for you, barley and onion, thick and bland, but warm. You eat in silence, watching the sunlight spread across the dirt floor. Outside, a dog barks. A rooster crows. The world keeps moving. Later that day, you're sent to the workshop. Your uncle is a potter, and while you have no plans to become one yourself, extra hands are always needed, especially now. as demand rises ahead of the planting season. Farmers want new jugs to store grain, priests want incense burners, and someone in the noble's household has requested a set of wine jars shaped like lotus buds. It's not glamorous work, but it's steady, and that matters more. The workshop smells of clay and smoke. You sit on a reed mat, cross-legged, as your uncle shapes the soft earth into form. His hands are fast, practiced, patient. Yours are not. He laughs when your first attempt crumples into itself like a wilted flower. Even the Nile took time to learn its course, he says, handing you a fresh lump. You try again. The hours pass in silence, save for the scraping of tools and the occasional grunt of effort. Sweat beads on your neck. The kiln burns hot, its glow bright even in daylight. Your arms ache from kneading, your back from sitting. Still, there's something meditative about the process show. A formless thing becomes useful, even beautiful, under careful hands. By midday, you've helped shape 6 vessels. Only 2 survive the drying rack. That's still better than yesterday. As payment, your uncle gives you a small clay pendanta scarab, smooth and warm from the sun. For luck, he says, or at least for remembering you made something today. You tuck it into the fold of your tunic, unsure if you believe in such things. But it feels good to carry a symbol of your work, your place, your moment. That evening, the sky turns orange and pink, painted by the gods themselves. You walk to the river again, not for water this time, but to listen, to be still. You dip your fingers into the cool current and let it carry the heat from your skin. You wonder what tomorrow brings. But for now, tonight is enough. A few days later, word spreads through the village. A traveling merchant has arrived. This is rare. Your village lies tucked along a lesser branch of the Nile, quiet and unremarkable. But sometimes, when the wind is favorable and the gods are generous, someone from the outside world stumbles in. He sets up a cloth canopy near the Templar-dyed linen flapping gently in the breeze and lays out his wares. Beads from the Levant, fine oil from the Delta, copper pins shaped like birds, and a small carved figure of Bes, the dwarf god who chases away evil. His skin is darkened by weeks on the river. His voice rolls like thunder over sand. People gather quickly. Children dart between legs, eyes wide at the colorful glass. Your mother runs her fingers over a piece of dyed cloth and sighs it's far too expensive. But looking is free. The merchant tells stories as he sells, of cities with stone streets and towers that touch the sky, of a market where fish are cooked in honey and sold on golden trays, of a land beyond the desert where it snows cold, white, silent. You've never even imagined such a thing. You don't buy anything, but you stand there, listening, letting your world stretch wider with every word. That night, your father shakes his head. He's half liar, half dreamer, he says. But even he doesn't turn away when the merchant begins to sing. The song is low and slow, a lullaby in a language you don't know but feel. It speaks of home and distance, of rivers and roads, of people who carry the past like a pot balanced on their head. You fall asleep with the melody still in your ears. And in your dreams, the Nile becomes an ocean. Your village becomes a city, and you walk through it not afraid, not lost, just curious, as if you've always belonged everywhere. The next morning, life resumes its rhythm. The merchant is gone vanished before dawn, his boat drifting silently down the river. The only sign he was ever there is a small pile of footprints near the shore and the faint smell of myrrh still clinging to the air. But somehow, things feel changed. Or maybe it's just you. You go about your chores mending nets, sweeping the yard, feeding the chickens, but your thoughts drift. Every time the wind moves through the reeds, you think of far-off cities. Every ripple on the river feels like an invitation. Later that week, a scribe arrives from the nearby town. He's come to collect tax records and tally the grain stores, but he agrees to teach a few children letters while he's here. Your parents say you may attend just for a day to see what it's like. You sit in the shade of a fig tree, chalk in hand, trying to copy the symbols he draws in the dust. They look like birds and snakes and eyes in rivers. Nothing makes sense. Your fingers cramp. Your head aches. But when the scribe reads a line aloud in an old poem, he says, "From a tomb wall you feel something click, not in your mind but in your bones." The words are old, older than anything you've touched, and yet they survive. They mean something. They carry someone's voice across centuries. You walk home slowly, the chalk tucked into your belt, the symbols still dancing in your thoughts. That night, you scratch one of them into a patch of clay near the door. It's crooked, barely legible, but it's there. A mark. Proof that you were here, that you learned, that you remembered. In ancient Egypt, memory is a kind of magic. To be remembered is to live forever. You don't know who will see your mark, but someone might, and that's enough. Weeks pass. The days blur together: sunrise, work, rest, sleep. The Nile rises slightly, then falls. The priests say it's a sign of balance, not too high to flood, not too low to starve, a good omen. You begin helping in the fields more regularly. The wheat has grown tall, and harvesting begins before the sun climbs too high. You work with a curved sickle, careful not to cut your fingers. The chaff clings to your skin, itches, stings. But you don't complain. Everyone works. Even the elders, even the smallest children. This is how you survive together, bent beneath the weight of the season. At noon, you sit beneath a tamarisk tree with your cousin. She sings to herself while eating figs from a shared pouch. The juice runs down her chin, and she wipes it with the back of her hand, smearing dust into sweetness. No one minds. Cleanliness is for temples. Here, you live by earth, by sun, by sweat. You hear a hawk cry above you and glance skyward. For a moment, you imagine Horus himself watching, his eyes sharp, his wings spread wide over the land. Maybe he's proud. Maybe he sees this small patch of earth and smiles. That night, there's a feast, not a grand one, but enough to celebrate the early yield. Your mother roasts duck, your father offers wine saved since last season. The fire crackles, laughter rises. Someone plays a flute from across the courtyard. You sit with your back against the wall, full, tired, content. Above you, the stars blaze, millions of them, arranged in patterns older than any name. The Milky Way stretches across the sky, which the priests call the River of the Heavens. They say when you die, your soul sails upon it in a boat made of light. You trace the shapes in your mind, imagining yourself up there, just for a second. A star among stars. Then a breeze rustles your hair. The flute fades, and your eyes close. Just like that, the world continues. The cool season begins to roll in slowly, subtly. Mornings come with a chill now, and the mist clings to the river before the sun burns it away. The days are shorter, the winds softer. You wake with a shiver and pull your blanket tight, grateful for every threadbare layer. Life slows during this time. The rush of planting and harvest is behind you. What remains is maintenance, preparation, reflection. You spend more time at home, helping your mother grind grain or shape loaves for baking. The oven's warmth is welcome now. So is the smelly yeast and ash and the faint tang of date syrup. Your little brother pokes the dough when no one's looking. Your mother smacks his hand and laughs. In the afternoons, you help repair the roof. Thatched reeds don't last forever, and the rains will come again. It's tedious work, bundling, tying, weaving, but there's peace in the rhythm. The older neighbors watch from their stools, giving advice even when it isn't needed. Tighter on the corners, one says. Don't leave gaps for the spirits to sneak in, another warns. You nod, pretending to understand, but part of you listens. You've started visiting the temple more often. Not for rituals or festivals, just to sit in the outer courtyard, where the stone stays cool and the air is thick with incense. The priests ignore you. Sometimes, other villagers come to ask questions or leave offerings. But you're not there to speak. You're there to listen. There's something about the silence between prayers. The way the columns stretch to the sky, as if holding it up. You feel small there, not in a frightening way, but in a way that reminds you that the world is vast, and your place in it matters because it's yours. One day, while sitting near the sacred pool, you see a bird land on the edge. A heron. Long legs, bright eye, patient stance. The priests believe herons were the first creatures to emerge from the waters of creation, a symbol of rebirth, of beginnings. You don't move, you barely breathe, and when it flies away, you feel something stir in your chest, not quite joy, not quite longing, just a quiet knowing. You walk home slowly, the sun dipping low behind you, casting long shadows, and for the first time in a while you realize you're not waiting for life to happen. You're already in it. Midway through the cool season, word spreads. There will be a festival. Not one of the great national one-snow pharaoh will arrive in golden chariots, but a local celebration, honoring Hathor, goddess of music, joy, and love. The villagers are excited. It's a chance to dance, to feast, to remember that life is more than toil and sweat. Preparation begins a week ahead. Banners of woven reeds and dried flowers are strung across doorways. Children rehearse songs in the courtyard, their voices high and shrill but eager. The older women prepare garlands. The men argue about which goats to sacrifice and whose beer is strongest. You're asked to help the musicians. Not to play your flute skills are untested, but to carry instruments and help string together shells and bells that will rattle in rhythm. It's the closest you've come to art in weeks, and you savor it. The textures, the colors, the thrill of creation. When the festival arrives, the village transforms. Firelight flickers from every doorway. The scent of roast meat and lentils fills the air. Painted faces, beaded collars, drums. The priests of Hathor lead the procession, holding up a small statue of the goddess. She smiles gently, her cow horns cradling the sun disk like a secret. People sing her praises, clap in time, sway with the music. Even the elders dancer try to. The children shriek with laughter. You find yourself moving to not wildly, but with the beat. Your hands mimic the clapping. Your feet tap the dust. You close your eyes, and for a moment, you are not a villager or a helper or a youth with dirt under your nails. You're a spark, a flame, a note in a song that began long before you were born and will echo long after. When it's over, the silence feels loud. The fire dies down. People sleep wherever they fall. You lie beside the house, eyes open to the stars. Somewhere in the distance, a drum still beats a heartbeat in the dark. You think of Hathor, of joy, of how the world can be both hard and beautiful, and you let sleep take you. As the months pass, you begin to notice things that once escaped you. The way your father's hands are always stained dark at the creases, worn at the fingertips from years of digging, tying, building. The way your mother hums when she cooks, always the same low melody, soft and wordless. You'd never really heard it before. Now, you listen. You watch the Nile differently too, not just as water, but as a living thread. It feeds the land, guides the birds, carries stories. You begin to understand why the priests speak of it not as a thing, but as a being, a god, a giver and a taker. One afternoon, you're sent with your uncle to the nearby town. It's your first time traveling far from the village. You walk for hours beneath a bright sun, past fields of flax and papyrus, past distant workers whose chants carry through the heat like ghostly echoes. You pass temples and crumbling shrines, some so old their names have been forgotten. When you reach the town, it overwhelms you, so many people, shouting, trading, praying. You cling to your uncle at first, but as the hours pass, you begin to wander a little, eyes wide. You see a potter shaping clay with impossible grace, a woman selling perfume in alabaster jars, a scribe with ink-stained fingers writing names in columns you don't yet understand. You stop at a stall with scrolls. You've never seen so many. The merchant watches you carefully. "Can you read?" he asks. You shake your head. He says nothing, just hands you a small fragment, a prayer to Osiris. You sound out the symbol slowly, lips moving silently, and for a flicker of a second you understand one word. Just one, but it's enough. You hand it back. The merchant nods, approving. "Not bad," he says. "Come back one day. Maybe I'll teach you more." On the walk home, you say little. The world feels wider again, full of secrets and stories waiting in ink. At night, you scratch more symbols into the clay outside your home. They're messy, crooked, but they are yours. The season of planting returns, and the rhythm of life settles once more into familiar grooves. You rise before dawn, the horizon still wrapped in gray. The earth is damp beneath your feet, soft from the Nile's retreat. You help your father scatter seeds, your hands working in steady, practiced movements. Birds circle overhead, hoping for a quick meal. You wave them off without thinking. The cycle continues. One morning, a messenger arrives. He wears the plain linen of a courier, dust-caked and tired, but he carries a scroll bearing the seal of the temple. Word spreads fast, a royal decree. The pharaoh is calling for able-bodied youths to serve in a labor crew temple work, or maybe repairs on a distant canal. No one knows for sure. Your name is listed. There's no arguing, no begging. This is the way of things. When the king calls, you go. Your mother prepares a satchel with food and a folded charm for protection. Your father hands you a small nif-a-nothing fancy, just a tool, but sharpened well. You hug your siblings goodbye. Your brother cries. You try not to. The journey is long. Days of walking with a caravan of strangers. Some are excited, others scared. Most are quiet, caught between pride and dread. The desert sun spares no one. The nights are cold and dry. You share stories around small fires, chewing on dried fish and coarse bread. When you finally arrive, the sight stuns you. A temple rises before you massive, sprawling, covered in carvings that shimmer gold in the light. You've never seen stones so white, never imagined columns so tall. Priests move through the shadows like ghosts. Everything smells of incense and dust. You're assigned to a quarry team. The work is brutal. Sunrise to sunset, you break stone and haul it in sleds. The overseer shouts often. The guards watch silently, spears in hand. Some men collapse, a few disappear. No one talks about it. At night, you lie on a bed of sand, muscles screaming, hands cracked and bleeding. But still, you watch the stars. You remember the myth's nuts swallowing Ra at dusk and birthing him again at dawn. You remember that your people have done this for generations. You are part of something immense. Unseen, perhaps, but real. You whisper a prayer into the dark, not for escape, not for riches, just strength and memory. Weeks turn into months. You adjust to the labor. Your hands grow calloused, your shoulders stronger. The pain doesn't vanish, it simply becomes part of you, like the dust under your nails or the weight of your daily ration bowl. You learn the unspoken rhythm of the crew. When to push, when to rest, when to joke to keep the silence from breaking your spirit. One evening, as the sun dips behind the cliffs, you're called aside. A scribe has requested a helper, someone young, observant, able to carry tools and keep ink from drying under the heat. Your name was passed along. No one tells you who. You don't ask. You just follow. The scribe's chamber is cooler, shaded, its walls covered with symbols you still barely grasp. He's older, quiet, with sharp eyes and a voice that cuts through your exhaustion like a blade. "You ever seen the story of the two brothers?" he asks, unrolling a papyrus. You nod hesitantly. "Heard it once, from a priest." "Good," he replies. "Then you'll know when I'm wrong." Each day after that, you divide your time. Labor at dawn, scribing by dusk. He teaches without teaching, asks questions, watches your mistakes, corrects you with a glance. He's not unkind, just precise. You respect it. Soon your hands learn the strokes. The reed pen feels less foreign. You begin to see how words bend, not just in shape, but in meaning. You copy poems, prayers, lists of offerings. One day, he lets you write a line in a ledger, a real record. It takes you nearly an hour. But when it's done, he nods, and you feel a heat rise in your chest that has nothing to do with the sun. Then, the season ends. The work crew disbands. Some men stay, hired by temples or nobles. Others return home, bones older than when they left. You're given a small coin, a folded scrap of papyrus with a blessing, and a choice. Stay with the scribe or return to your village. You hesitate. But in your mind, you already know you'll go home. Not because you're afraid, but because you've seen something now learned, something that you want to share. The knowledge means nothing if it lives only inside stone halls and ink-stained walls. So you walk, alone this time. The path back is the same, but you are not. Let me know when to continue. We're entering the next chapter of your story, a return, a reckoning, a quiet kind of growth. Your village hasn't changed much, but you have. When you arrive, your little brother is taller. Your sister runs to you, laughing, but your father just nods, proud in the way only quiet men can be. Your mother hugs you longer than you expect. Her hair is grayer, her back more bent. You set your pack down, and life picks up where it left off. But now, your eyes catch things they never noticed before. You fix tools without being asked. You remember how the scribe stored grain records and build a similar system for your family's harvest. You show your brother how to read simple symbols: sun, house, man, water. He giggles when he gets one right. You beam. The neighbors notice. One day, a boy comes with a broken pot and a question. Then another, with a scroll they found in the temple trash heap. Soon, they start calling you scribe, even if you still stumble over long prayers. But you don't correct them. Not anymore. You visit the local temple more often now. Not as a supplicant, but as a student. You ask the priests about Thoth, god of wisdom. You kneel beside elders and copy their chants. You begin writing letters for the old woman who can no longer hold a pen. Blessings for newborns, even charms to ease fevers. And though your work remains humble harvesting, tending, patching roofs, there's something else too. People come to you with their stories, their losses, their hopes, as if the ink you carry can preserve not just words but memory. Meaning, they trust you not just to write but to witness. One evening, you sit outside your home as the stars rise. Your brother leans against you, half asleep. A breeze moves through the reeds, and the night smells of river and ash and sweetness. You think of the stone halls, the chants, the weight of tablets and scrolls. And you realize, here, in this small place, you are still part of it all. The old world, the new. You don't need to wear gold or carve your name in tomb walls to be remembered. Sometimes, all it takes is living fully, quietly, and leaving behind words that matter. And with that, sleep finds you once more soft, slow, and full of dreams shaped like pyramids in starlight. Let me know when you're ready to journey again. Egypt holds more stories than grains of sand, and your story has only just begun. Salteri Pasput, your name does not. Somewhere, buried deep in the archives of a forgotten temple, a fragment of papyrus survives the flood, the fire, the silence. It bears your handwriting, a small list, a simple prayer, a story scratched in fading ink. Nothing grand, nothing royal. But someone, somewhere, reads it. And for a moment brief, as the wind you are remembered. In this, you've joined the ranks of every quiet scribe, every nameless builder, every soul who lived not for glory, but for meaning. You were part of the Nile's rhythm, the land's breath, the memory of a civilization too vast to truly vanish. This, dear listener, is the strange eternity Egypt offers. Not immortality in gold, but in stories passed hand to hand, voice to voice, night to night. So as you drift now into sleep, carried by the hush of reeds and river, remember, you lived, you learned, you left something behind. And that, in the end, is enough. Good night. Let the sand cradle your dreams. Let the gods watch over your rest. And may the Nile carry your name softly, forever, beneath the stars. You've made it to the end. 3 quiet hours spent walking through dust, shadow, memory. Ancient Egypt wasn't just pharaohs and pyramids, it was children learning to read by firelight, workers shaping stone beneath a cruel sun, mothers weaving baskets, elders whispering spells to ease the pain of age. And you lived it, if only for a night. If your eyes are still open, thank you for staying. If you're already asleep, even better. Either way, leave a comment when you wake up. Tell us where you're listening from, and what time it was when you pressed play. It's always beautiful to see this little temple of calm we've built people across the world, connected by silence, by stories, by sleep. And if this journey brought you peace, like, subscribe, and come back again. The past is full of dream sand, we still have many more to tell. Rest well, traveler. We'll be waiting by the river,